Hello again, students. I am so happy to see you. It makes me delighted what we're going to do today, which is talk about the first half of Huckleberry Finn, which is your assignment for the week. Perhaps you've seen a movie. Perhaps you read it in high school. I will tell you this much. Huckleberry Finn is not a cute story really designed for kids, though it surely is about very young people. It's a story that has inspired so much discussion. Many scholars in my profession, if you were to ask them, what is the great American novel? What is the greatest one we have ever written so far? The most serious, the most important, the most reflective of who we are. Many will say, it's this wonderful novel, Huckleberry Finn. I'm not sure it's really a great novel to teach kids because I think they miss a lot. But if you didn't miss a lot, that's great. Let me talk to you about why people in my profession and other writers like Ernest Hemingway have thought, since it was written, that it's truly the great American novel. First of all, it's distinctly American. I have a video about the ways that it is so. We've talked in other parts of this class about the departure of poetry from European standards and expectations in the work of Whitman and indeed in Dickinson, among others. And the invention, effectively, of American poetry in the hands of Walt Whitman. I don't know that all my scholar colleagues would agree that Mark Twain invents the American novel. I think there's more than one inventor of the American novel. But what he certainly has written is a clear departure from past European novels. He has a protagonist who's a street urchin, a kid who's being abused by an alcoholic father who escapes. And where does he escape? He escapes into the gorgeous and sometimes perilous American landscape. And there he, who's never been a very well-behaved boy, you will see, for instance, he very hilariously tells these women who have been taking care of him that as they teach him his Sunday school lessons, they preach to him. Effectively, they're trying to civilize him. Think of how the Europeans saw American ruffians. He asks if his best friend Tom Sawyer is going to go to heaven, and the ladies who are very pro-clutchy, they clutch their pearls and say, "My goodness, no! He's a very naughty boy. He is not going to heaven." And Huck shrugs his shoulders and says, "Well, I want to go where Tom's going." That's an interesting idea. Certainly, this can be read as a parable of the establishment of an American future that leaves European expectations behind. It is equally, and indeed more importantly, a parable about America's moral development regarding the question of slavery. We'll talk about that more next week. But this week, here are some things that I would ask you to consider. We certainly hear everything through the voice of Huckleberry Finn, who is not an elegant or sophisticated narrator. He doesn't, just as Walt Whitman doesn't sound like a poet from Europe, one of the people from high-minded society in Europe. Huckleberry Finn, he's a homeless kid. basically. He's the least sophisticated. If he had been in school every day in his little schoolhouse in Missouri, he wouldn't have learned so much as to sound sophisticated. He's not a king. He's not a future king. He's not a philosopher of any scholarly note. So he doesn't fit a lot of European traditional models of who gets to be a protagonist in a novel. Protagonist means main character who drives the story. He's in fact the least likely. And there's something exceedingly democratic about that. The other thing I would have you notice is that his escape is in a place that, even though you're seeing the much more modern version of it, you actually really know. If you live in Louisiana, you know this. He escapes down the Mississippi River. Down the Mississippi River is the American destiny journey, along with the Western journey. From east to west, we also go up and down the Mississippi River. I take this novel particularly to heart because the way I met my husband and moved south from New York is I was reading some Mark Twain nonfiction about life on the Mississippi. He had worked as a steamboat pilot for a while. And I realized what a scandal it was that I, who had certainly seen the Hudson River, an important river in America, and who had seen the Atlantic Ocean, had never once seen the Mississippi River. So I thought that I would take my vacation days that were going to expire and bought myself a ticket to Jackson, Mississippi, where I planned on driving up the Blues Highway by myself. I thought, that'll be easy. I'll do that. That's not too expensive. I'll spend a couple of weeks doing that, learning something, and then I'll go home to New York. On my first day, as I was getting ready to set out, I was buying myself a cup of tea, and there was a pair of petrochemists playing chess, and one of them was my husband-to-be. I didn't know that at the time, of course. But he took time off from work and showed me around the Mississippi. And a year and a half later, he got down on one knee on the banks of the Mississippi and proposed to me. So while I'm certainly nobody's idea of a Huck Finn character, the Mississippi evokes new possibilities. When I married my husband, Chuck, I moved south, and it really changed my whole life. Huckleberry Finn is going to go on a series of adventures in this novel, entirely unrelated to mine, of course, except for the Mississippi. And through that, he develops his worldview, his character more. There is something about a young person on a journey, which is very traditionally a place where the moral development of the person could occur. And I think that you have that here in Huckleberry Finn. Watch how he develops through this story. We're going to talk about that part more later. For now, while of course the Mississippi River is just a river, a geographic phenomenon, ask yourself, that'll be the forum question for this week, whether the Mississippi River in Huckleberry Finn could be considered a character. I will be interested in reading your responses to that question. And this American voice, this irreverent, humorous American voice, this downtrodden individual who's given the whole novel to tell his story, nothing could be more democratic. Nothing could be more American. And I would suggest to you that he is telling the story of the South as well as the American and landscape in its entirety that is worth your attention, worth the attention of Ernest Hemingway, worth the attention of everyone in my profession. And I'm excited for you in advance if you haven't read this novel. It's going to knock your socks off. So without further ado, I look forward to reading your responses once you've done a little reading. Crack open that book.